Just imagine you're framed for a crime you didn't commit and sent to the most dangerous prison in the world. Sounds terrifying, right? Well, that's exactly what happens in today's story. The story begins in 1931 in Paris, where a skilled thief named Papillon was infamous for his ability to crack any lock. One day, after successfully stealing a stash of diamonds, he handed them over to his boss. But his boss wasn't convinced. He accused Papillon of keeping some of the diamonds for himself. At that moment, a severely beaten man was dragged in front of them. The boss threatened Papillon, saying, "If you're lying to me, this will be your fate." Seeing the bloodied man, Papillon grew uneasy. But without showing fear, he took his share of the money and left to meet his girlfriend, Nanette. As a token of love, he gifted her a diamond necklace, one he had secretly kept from his boss. Little did he know, someone was watching. A mysterious man had spotted the necklace in Nanette's hands. That night, Papillon and Nanette dreamed of a peaceful future. She told him she wanted to leave this world of crime and build a small home together. But their happiness was short-lived. The next morning, the police burst into their home and arrested Papillon. He was accused of murdering the very man his boss had beaten. No matter how much he pleaded his innocence, the officers refused to listen. Papillon quickly realized one thing: the truth won't set him free. If he wants to survive, he must escape. Inside prison, Papillon befriends Juliet, another inmate. One day, Juliet tells him, "If you want to escape, you'll need a lot of money." Then, he points toward a prisoner named Degas and whispers, "That man can help you." Degas was once a wealthy man, but his fortune crumbled when he was caught printing counterfeit money. As punishment, he was sentenced to prison. All the prisoners, including Papillon and Degas, were transported by boat to the notorious penal colony, a prison from which no one had ever escaped. That night, Papillon approached Degas and offered him a deal: "Give me money, and I'll protect you." But Degas clearly refused. Later that night, as Degas tried to sleep, he witnessed something terrifying. A prisoner near him was brutally murdered in his sleep because he had hidden money inside his stomach. The gruesome sight horrified Degas. By morning, shaken by fear, Degas reconsidered Papillon's offer. He agreed to pay for protection, but only until they reached the prison. In reality, Degas had no intention of escaping. He believed his wife would arrange his release soon. However, that very night, the same killer who had murdered the other prisoner came after Degas. Just as he was about to strike, Papillon intervened. He fought fiercely and overpowered the attacker. But before he could finish him off, the guards arrived. Papillon was severely punished for his actions, but he didn't care. What mattered to him was that his source of money, Degas, was still alive. The next morning, the prisoners finally arrived at the penal colony jail, a place feared by criminals worldwide. Shortly after arriving, Juliet, Papillon's friend, deliberately injured himself so he could be sent to the prison clinic. His real plan was to escape from clinic. The clinic had fewer guards, making it the easiest place to break out from. Meanwhile, Papillon and the other criminals were taken into the main prison, a hellhole filled with the most dangerous convicts. The prison warden soon arrived to address the new inmates. His words sent a chill down their spines: "Escape is impossible here, so do not even think about it. If you try, you will be punished. 2 years of solitary confinement for the first attempt. If you try again, you get 3 more years. But if you dare to attempt a third time, you will be sent to Devil's Island, and no one returns from there. People go insane there, they lose their minds. And if any of you commit murder, your head will roll in front of everyone." The prisoners stood in silence, realizing the nightmare they had entered. After that, they were assigned their first task: hauling stones under the scorching sun, their bodies already battered before their sentences had even begun. A few days later, Papillon met a man who owned boats. Desperate to escape, he promised the man a large sum of money in exchange for a boat, and the man agreed, asking Papillon to meet him at the shore the next night. However, word of the escape plan spread inside the prison, and a dangerous prisoner learned about it. Hoping to steal the escape money, he attacked Degas, but once again, Papillon saved him by defeating the attacker. Seeing this, Degas realized that without Papillon, he wouldn't survive in this place even for a day. Left with no other option, he decided to join Papillon in his escape plan. The next morning, all the prisoners were gathered in the open field. Juliet, who had attempted to escape, had killed 2 guards in the process. So his punishment was swift and brutal: he was publicly beheaded. Seeing this gruesome sight, every prisoner's soul trembled with fear. After the execution, the warden ordered Papillon and Degas to carry Juliet's body to the graveyard. On the way, Degas suddenly panicked. He had never touched a dead body before, and fear overtook him. Papillon tried to calm him down, but it had no effect. A guard noticed Degas' hesitation and ordered him to pick up the body. When Degas refused, the guards started beating him mercilessly. Feeling pity for Degas, Papillon grabbed a stone and struck it against the guard's head. Chaos erupted as he ran away, but poor Degas was so terrified that he couldn't even move. That night, Papillon finally reached the shore where the boatman was waiting. Exhausted and desperate, he asked for the boat. But suddenly, the man started laughing out loud. Papillon turned around, and his heart sank. The guards had surrounded him from all sides. It was then revealed that the boatman had betrayed him. In exchange for a hefty reward, he had informed the warden about Papillon's escape plan. Papillon had unknowingly walked straight into a trap. Soon, Papillon was brought back to the prison, where the warden informed him that the guard he had struck with a stone had survived. This meant Papillon would not face the death penalty. However, for attempting to escape, he was sentenced to solitary confinement on another island. When Papillon arrived, he was shocked by the conditions. In the previous prison, at least prisoners could talk to each other. But here, he was forced to stay in a tiny cell, completely alone, and was not allowed to make a sound, not even to talk to himself. Speaking, even in whispers, was considered a crime. His meals consisted of nothing more than a thin, tasteless soup, barely enough to survive. One day, however, something unexpected happened. Inside his food tray, he found a coconut. Hidden inside was a small piece of paper with a message: "From now on, you will receive a coconut every day." Papillon immediately understood this had to be from Degas. For weeks, he secretly received a coconut daily, giving him much-needed nourishment. But the warden eventually discovered this act of kindness. Furious, he executed the prison guard responsible for delivering Papillon's food. He then confronted Papillon, demanding to know who was behind it. But Papillon remained silent. Enraged, the warden cut his food rations in half, allowing him only half a bowl of soup per day. As weeks passed, Papillon became dangerously thin, his body wasting away from hunger. Then, one day, the warden tried a different approach. He brought Papillon a plate of delicious food and once again asked for the name of the person who had been helping him. But Papillon still refused to speak. Losing his patience, the warden sentenced him to complete darkness for the rest of his punishment. Now, Papillon's world became a living nightmare. Not only was he starving and unable to talk to anyone, but he could no longer even see his surroundings. The complete isolation, darkness, and hunger began to break his mind. His body weakened to the point where he could barely move, and eventually, he had to be transferred to the prison hospital. By sheer coincidence, Degas had earned the warden's trust over the past year and had been assigned a job inside the prison. When he visited Papillon in the hospital, he was shocked by his condition. But then, he realized something: Papillon was only pretending to be insane. He had deliberately acted mad because he knew it would get him transferred back to the normal prison. Now reunited, Papillon and Degas began plotting their next escape. But this time, they decided they would not do it alone. They needed the help of 2 more prisoners to make it out alive. Papillon chose a prisoner named Charrière, who was extremely strong, while Degas selected Charrière, a matchmaker who often harassed by others. Degas then handed over all his money to Charrière, who used it to buy a boat for their escape. That night, while a film was being shown to the prisoners, the 4 of them decided it was time to make their move. Degas was nervous, but Papillon assured him that this was their last chance to escape. According to the plan, Degas approached the officers watching the film and offered them liquor, cleverly mixing a sleeping drug into it. He then waited for the right moment to steal the key to the main gate. Meanwhile, Papillon and the others were hiding nearby, waiting for Degas' signal. Suddenly, it started raining heavily, and the prison lights went out.